Hello. It is Friday, April 16th, 2021. This is the Yormish full body workout, and that means it is cycle 7, chapter 1, iteration 5. And according to what I've written down before, there should be 7 iterations. So 2 more days of this workout, and then it's adventure time. What I'm thinking about doing during adventure time is actually doing this workout again, and then maybe doing some sort of challenge afterwards. See if that's possible. See what it, but not a big challenge. Just like something I was thinking the other day was 100 squats, how without any weights or anything. Just 100 squats. See what happens. All right. Public service announcement time. Please do not waste your time watching this video unless you have a very specific reason to watch this video. Okay. Now that we got all that out of the way, what's going on here? What's happening? What's the deal? Yeah, full body workout, low reps, low weight, but it hits my whole body, and somehow that still tires me out. I've tried it with higher reps and higher weight. I've kind of dialed it in to where I'm not totally exhausted at the end of it. And the good news is, or maybe the bad news, I don't know. There's 2 ways to take it. I'm going to take it as good news. The good news is, even doing this every day for the past 4 days, still haven't really I felt a little bit of soreness, but felt more soreness into like covering up semi-injured areas, little sore areas that had been sore, before starting this cycle. Yeah, the cycle's 4 chapters. Chapter 1 and 3 are structured, and chapters 2 and 4 are not so structured. 2 and 4 are adventure weeks. Whole cycle 7 weeks. Chapter 1 is 7 of these full body workouts. Chapter 3 is Monday, Wednesday, Friday workout that I used to do all the time, and I wanted a little bit more variety, and I wanted a little bit more adventure. So there is structure, but there's also variety in this. Give me too much variety, and I found out I don't get it done. Give me too much structure, and I rebel. So it's kind of getting to know my personality and going within those limits, but sometimes expanding those limits a little bit. So all of this is very gentle and very good. So the philosophy behind this, and especially this workout, one of the biggest philosophies behind this workout is cut down on transition times between exercises and add variety instead of doing like what I'm going to be doing here is, the first part, the first back and forth, what I guess a friend of mine would probably say the first evolution of these exercises. The first evolution would be, after stretching, of course, would be pull-ups, and then go do a set of incline bench, and then back to pull-ups and incline bench. And I've done that before. I don't like the transition time going back and forth, so I can mix it up. I can do 1 set of pull-ups, and then I can do 3 sets of incline bench, and then do 2 more sets of pull-ups, and I'm done with that section. I like the word section better than evolution. Section seems to be a little bit better for me. Although I do see where my friend's coming up with the word evolution, because you're evolving your body to be a better self. When you have these kinds of trainings, I guess the trainings are evolution, and you're evolving to the next level and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of cool in a very Darwinian way. I like section though. Section, because it doesn't feel, honestly, the numbers on these things, I am not like blowing myself away. Like, whoa, I've done more than ever before. No, it's not like that at all. But I'm not embarrassed about it. It's like, hey, there is weakness within me, and I'm dusting it off, taking a good look at it, and say, yeah, we got to work on this. And I'm highly confident that with consistency comes strength. So that's the most important thing. All right, so that's my little bit talking. I guess the rhythm of these videos is pretty much the date, the section, or the iteration, or whatever, all that, and then the public's a little bit of talking, public service announcements, a little talking, stretching, working out. All right, so and then practicing the wonderfully fine art of zipping my lips, aka being quiet, the fine art of shutting the front door. Yeah, the front door is shut, right? Okay, good. Yeah, I had to double check that. All right. Yeah, I try to be nice and good and all this kind of stuff. And sometimes I am just a goofy and silly person. And one of these days, hopefully, already in the past, I've already said all the wrong things I'm going to say. And from here on out, I will say nothing but, things that add to humanity and myself and all that kind of stuff. Oh goodness, embarrassing things in the past and stupid things that you've aired out in front of people, and. Oh goodness, why am I thinking about that right now? All right, so enough is enough. Let's get this done. Set up the camera in the proper place. Video is rolling. I've done 6 minutes of talking. Wow. All right. Let's do this thing. That's it. All done. Let's have a tiny conversation. A couple notes to myself in that one. Whew. Good workout. Oh, believe it or not, this is a stretch. Sometimes it feels like it. Oh, 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 whew. Ugh. All right. Notes to self. There might be something there as far as breathing out, do a repetition while breathing out. Holding breath empty, do a repetition. Breathing in, do a repetition. And holding breath, do a repetition. A long time ago, from multiple sources, I was trying to learn to work out and different things, and one of the things people kept telling me is breathe, breathe. You know, I'd hold my breath and like, ugh. Since this is lightweight and low reps, I think I have a margin of error. And within that margin of error, why not do each repetition in each of the 4 phases of breath? So it's like, I'm working out while being able to breathe out. I'm working out while being able to hold empty. I'm working out while being able to inhale. And I'm working out while being able to hold full, or sort of full. So using that, starting out a set, let's say a set of 4. 4 seems to work really well for this. A couple other things I was doing there, by the way, was the inhale, inhale, exhale. I would do that like 2.5 times. And then that half time is I already had an inhale, and, you know, locked in. And I had an exhale ready to go. And that exhale was going to be the first rep. So it's a really good way to cut down on some transition time. Also give myself a good breath. Also get my breathing really, really squared away. Because I got a feeling if I do this workout in a way that's working out my breath. So it means a lot more sets of 4 and multiples of 4. For example, doing, let's say, 20 calf raises, I can start out, you know, the exhale. And then as soon as I hit that bottom point again, I'm holding empty. And then right there, I've held empty, I've hit that point again. This is my heel, by the way. The heel of my hand and representing the heel of my foot. I do that inhale on the 3rd repetition. Inhaling. And then as soon as I hit that again, I hold that inhale. So my breath is also controlling my time. So this goes up and down as long as it takes to do whatever phase of breath. So like on that inhale, this is like inhale, 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 stop. Hold somewhat full, not 100% full. Whatever fullness I can master. I'm not trying to go 100% full all the time in air. And then hold. And hold, 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 hold. Bang. Start the exhale, start the rep. If I'm doing, like I said, a set of 20, that'll be, 5 sets of 4. So, in multiples of 4, because that's why I switched up that last, the push downs. I switched those up to both multiples of 4. The way I have it written down was 4 reps push downs using the lats, and 4 reps using 3 reps using the triceps. I switched that up to 4. And the transition's really cool because that transition, that end of the 4th is you're holding full and you're ready to go into rep 1 of something else. So that's really fun with playing the transitions. Also, a couple other things I was doing, I was really liking right out of the get-go, did 2 sets of it might not look like 2 sets, but it was 2 sets in my mind of 2 reps of pull-ups. Then I went to the incline bench, knocked out 3 sets of that, finished up that one last set to figure out that whole section. So lots of good stuff going on there. And the cool thing is before the workout, the same thing with I do with stretches sometimes, that I learned from that Wim Hof video, was that bend, hold, build up pressure on the hold, and then do that stretch a little bit further into the stretch. So let's say I'm doing this stretch right now, both legs. I'm stretch, or a hold breath for a little while, then stretch, inhale, hold, and then like stretch a little bit more on the exhale. Build up pressure. When that inhale, when that breath being held has some pressure, you can use that towards the stretch. That same principle seems to apply towards a repetition. I don't feel like doing another rep, or I don't feel like starting the exercise, whatever it is, that little bit of hesitation, trying to minimize that hesitation within my own brain. So I'm working out my breath, working out my body, and working out my brain. In other words, the brain workout is the minimization of hesitation. So I don't want to do, let's say, curls. Just don't want to do it, don't want to do it, don't want to do it. But I do that inhale, inhale, hold, inhale, inhale, hold. You know, so it's, the longer I hold for, the more pressure it is for me to do something. Well, I know as soon as I exhale, I'm going to be doing that rep. So that pressure just is like a countdown. And that countdown goes to like, it's just easier to exhale and do the rep than it is to hold my breath any longer. So it's really using the human beings, and I'm a human being, at least I'm pretty sure. Sometimes I'm not so sure, but I'm a human being, and that natural rule set that we have is like lean towards laziness in some things. Well, it's actually working to my advantage, because it's easier, 2 paths, hold breath, do the repetition, do the rep. Well, when the hold breath becomes harder and harder and harder and harder, it becomes just easier, just let's do the rep. And using that to my advantage. So using my natural inclinations to my own advantage. Let's do another quick stretch right here. Something almost cut me somewhere. Yeah, there's 2 like claw marks. What the hell is that? Was I playing with kittens recently? Yeah, that last stretch was half-hearted at best, but as usual, a little tired. I'll be honest with you, a little bit more than just a tiny bit. But yeah, I'm a bit tired on that. You gotta walk around the block, gotta eat, gotta do all sorts of things, gotta charge up the watch. Also, should say, hey, guess what? I'm done. Yeah, that's all done, whatever that is. Thank you for your help in all things like that. Whew. Oh, man. Man, it feels so good to be on the 5th day of this. I don't know if I've ever gone 7 straight on these workouts. That's worth investigating. There's part of my ego or my brain says, oh yeah, you definitely did. Of course you did. Maybe not. Maybe not at all. Maybe not even close. I do. Part of my brain's still thinking, yeah, you know you did. You did at least one. You're real fired up on it. And momentum, enthusiasm, motivation, if I dare say. I think motivation kind of is a side effect of momentum, strangely enough. If you don't have momentum and you're looking for motivation, it's an interesting lottery ticket. So I'm definitely feeling that right now. Feeling bad that I haven't eaten yet. I should have ate a few hours ago. And I don't feel bad about the time. The more time between meals is best for me, it seems. But the actual camaraderie. I was gonna go hang out with my dad and watch an episode of some sort of, highly recommended actually. I think it's funny in weird ways.
that BBC show, New Tricks. We've been watching, cutting through. We're getting near the end of the whole series, and it's been pretty good. I think it'll be cool if at least one cast member lasts the whole 12 years of the series or whatever. So, very thankful for things like that. Very thankful for things like streaming services like Netflix and Amazon Prime. Not very thankful for my internet company, Frontier, by the way, decided just to send me an email. By the way, we're raising our one of our BS fees. We're just going to raise that by a couple bucks. Now that BS fee is $6.99. I wish BS stood for big surprise, but it's not a big surprise. Scoundrels. Well, maybe not. I mean, I have no idea, but I imagine that there's probably a way, if enough human beings focused on the problem of getting free internet access to everybody, there might be a way to have it happen. And could you imagine a world with free internet access to everybody? Whew. Magical. Just the prosperity that we have would go through the roof. And the silly meme pictures, oh, that would be a gold mine. No, I don't know. I saw one of those recently that was just, it blew me away, and I wanted to turn into a joke, but I realized that would just be a little bit too, I can take an idea for a joke and make a concept out of it, but I've taken ideas for jokes before from places and friends, and it's basically been straight up, it felt like, copying somebody else's work, and I don't necessarily like someone doing that unless they pay homage to me. Hey, this guy told this joke that was this, this, and this. I love that version of the joke, and here's an add-on to it. That kind of thing. Add a little bit more value to it, great. Or, add accolades to the joke. But the joke that I saw in a meme was something like asking more than 3 times is bad, or something like that. And then, on the screenshot, it was, I think it was somebody, saying something like, if he asks you, if you say no more than, I think it was, if you say no more than 3 times, it's sexual assault, or something like that. And, some lady with the finger and, a quote bubble coming out of her mouth or something. I don't remember exactly what it was. And there's probably different versions out there. And at the bottom of it, it was would you like, YouTube Premium or whatever, the YouTube that they're trying, YouTube TV or YouTube Red or whatever the current flavor of trying to charge you for something is. Whatever the one is that gets you out of commercials or something, or gets you premium content. I don't know. And it's just I remember the first time I saw a commercial on YouTube and I was like, oh no, it's all downhill from here. And thank goodness, usually the 5-second thing stayed, but the whole reason I don't watch YouTube mostly on a phone or the tablet is basically because of the ones that you can't eliminate in 5 seconds. So it's just the ones you can't eliminate in 5 seconds. I am so glad I'm on a tabbed browser and can't eliminate that for 5 seconds. See ya. Go look up one of my other tabs that has some interesting information. Just check out my tabs. The perfect excuse to see if I need those tabs open or not. And the good thing about usually wearing headphones, just, commercial, take the headphones out, look at the tabs. By the time I get back to the thing, the commercial's usually done. So it's a nice reminder of hey, clear out some of your tabs. Not all these tabs are necessary in your browser. And I love tabbed browsing, but sometimes I think I go a little too far with it. When you don't even have letters, you just have tabs all across the screen. It's just that you need some more organizational skills, my friend. That's what I say to myself. And and sometimes it's true. So back to tabbed browsing and YouTube advertising, and let's round back. Let's see if my trail of thought leads back to where I was going with all this stuff. So joke. And I was thinking about a well-written joke using that idea about the YouTube and no. And it could be something like a story joke. So, let's call a guy's name, or let's use a girl. Let's call her Eleanor. There we go, Eleanor. So Eleanor was watching a video that she just found on YouTube, and for some reason it was recommended to her. And on the name of the video was, if you have to say no more than 3 times, it's sexual assault. And right then, for the 800th time, YouTube asked her if she wanted YouTube TV. And she got to thinking, YouTube, you perverts. I don't know, something like that. So, but it's too close to the original joke. There's not enough original content to make it a proper derivative where it stands on its own weight. I like something where the original content, but you can appreciate the new content, and they both stand on their own merit. I think it's just a little too close, in my humble opinion. And I only say that because there's at least one time for certain somebody's stolen a joke from me, and I really felt it, and actually twice, and it's been the same joke. It's a great joke. I don't know, I think it was an M Factor type thing where both people are thinking the exact same thing. And I've also heard one of my jokes I told to a friend of mine. He's like, oh, that's a Jim Breuer joke. That's a great version of that joke. And now I'm going to look up Jim Breuer. I know a whole bunch of Jim Breuer stuff, but I was like, I don't know of any of his stuff recently. So note to self, there is a Me Too Jim Breuer joke. And got to find that, got to figure that out. Also, I'm trying to figure out a way to tell, like, the joke in question. I don't know if I should tell it or not, but I don't think too many people watch this thing anyway, so I'll tell it. And I don't think it really hurts anybody's feelings. Maybe it does. I don't know. That's an interesting, like, I really don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I really want to have laughter and pay attention to things. And part of the recipe for comedy is, tragedy plus time. So I don't know. I think there'd probably be. I would want to hear if somebody's really hurt by this joke, and the joke goes something like this: I found out about the Me Too movement, and this is my version. This is the one I made up. I still haven't heard the Jim Breuer version of it, and I don't know if it's an actual Jim Breuer joke or if my buddy was just messing with me, because he knows I'm a little bit sensitive to that. Like, I want to create basically original content, but then again, it could be like. An M Factor, which is 2 people think of the exact same idea, or in relatively exact same idea, relatively at the same time. I guess Marconi and the other guy that invented radio, and I think it's Watkins or Wallace. I think it's Wallace and Darwin. Relatively at the same time. So the joke is, and evolution's way more important than a joke, by the way. So this is not very important at all. But what the joke is so I found out about the Me Too movement in probably one of the worst possible ways. I generally try not to watch the news and figure things out. So I was over at a buddy's house, and yeah, he's a bit particular. I'm not going to say bad things about him, but if you're thinking about the kind of guy that would disparage a movement like that, just picture him, and you've probably pictured my friend. Anyway, so I heard about it from him. Saw something on the news about a Me Too movement, and I'm just like, what is this Me Too thing? And he's like, okay, so that actress that recently just made like $9 million in that really interesting film, and she did a really good job, but she made $9 million in this film. And oh yeah, I know who you're talking about. I haven't seen the film yet, but I heard it was good. I'll check her out. I hear she's good. And well, I'm not really big into actresses or actors, or I'm more into the storyline, but some people, actors and actresses, I think it's like a drum beat that is so well sequenced in the song, you don't think about the drum beat. So sometimes I think about highly skilled actors or actresses that way. When you don't notice them and you don't notice their acting, then they're doing an amazing job. Or I'm just particularly ignorant. But anyway, side note aside, he says, yeah, man, that actress that made $9 million. Well, it turns out, to start her career, she had to screw this producer guy, and he was just a troll of a human being, taking advantage of people, just taking advantage of his place of power. And I was like, okay, but why is it called Me Too? And he showed me a picture of the guy. He's like, would you screw this dude for $9 million? I'm like, yeah. He's like, me too. So that's my version. There's different ways I say it. I probably use a little bit more colorful language on it. I use a little faster quips, no side note in the middle there. I try to make it a bounce talk, because there's a whole bit surrounding hanging out with this dude and all the things I learn about because I don't watch the news, and like how horrible it is to get your news filtered, not only filtered through news channels and all that kind of stuff, and the inherent biases of the media itself, but also the biases of, you have something biased and you go through a human being as a filter, and then you get something that is just like, is that still news anymore? How can you call it 99% chicken when it's been, if it's 99%, 99%, 99% down the line, 800 evolutions later, is it really, or 800, not evolutions, but generations later, is it really still 99%? So, anyway, so there's probably something about that. And I don't think I've ever gone through the whole thing. I think I've done at least the Me Too thing once up on stage. Wonderful open mic comedy a long time ago, but did I videotape it? I don't know. I hope I did, and I hope I didn't, because I am proud of the fact that I got up on stage. I did the investigations. I did the understanding. I'm proud of the fact that here's the thing. The whole thing that started me, I love comedy. I love the idea of comedy. I got like the idea of writing jokes and all that kind of stuff. I don't really get so much stage fright or that kind of thing. So I consider myself lucky. I just don't really have that phobia. I've definitely felt excited to get it up on stage. And I think the first time I did comedy, my knees were shaking a bit. But I chose to interpret that as excitement instead of scare. And I was like amazed by it. I was like, holy cow, this is how my body's acting towards this. And I don't think I really noticed it till I got off the stage. There was like a wobble in my knees, like, hey, shaking in the knee, your knees are shaking. That's a real thing. So it's like, wow. So I've probably felt it before, but I never noticed the knee part of it. Anyway, so like the whole comedy bit, going back to the whole comedy bit, the idea for getting up on stage really started when I was writing something, and I still haven't finished it. And one of the main characters, the main character, there's several main characters, but the absolute main character, the whole character that started this thing, was a comedian. And started writing him and all these ideas behind the thing. And I realized I was trying to do, each chapter was like gonna be almost like a Seinfeld type thing. Like Seinfeld always ended up, or started, I can't remember. I think it ended up with him telling jokes about the episode that happened. And that was the ending credits and all that, which is a great idea. Also from the book, what was it? There was a book called like The Five Demon Princes or something, The Five Princes or Five Demons. It was written in like the 20s or 40s, 1940s, 1920s. And it was about this guy that wanted revenge against these five people in this, like, in the galaxy, basically. People that, these five princes that, controlled planets and hired pirates and did all these things. And basically, he figured out those guys were the ultimate responsibility for when he was a child, his family got killed. So he systematically, throughout the books, hunts down all of them. And every chapter begins with like an article. And the article, you read the article, and it really sets the whole setting of this. It really fleshes out the world and the planets and how the planets react to each other and the politics of the situation. And sometimes it barely has anything to do with the plot of the book. It's just really good for creating that setting, that diving in. So I wanted to combine both those things and have the guy, every chapter start with him doing comedy, and some of the comedy would be reflective on his transitioning as a human being. He starts out as basically a scoundrel, and he has every justification, every excuse, and some of them are even valid, about why he is the way he is. He's a womanizer. He's a drug addict, but can't seem to get the addict part right. He's alcoholic, but really, for some silly reason, the alcohol and the drugs never really, they never get their hooks in them. Like he sees people throw away their lives for drugs and alcohol, and he kind of wants to do that. He wants to, be a force of nothing and total nihilism. He's romantically in love with, not romantically, but platonically in love with that idea of becoming nothing and throwing it all away and just a big explosion and screw it all up and chaos for everybody and all that kind of stuff, because nothing matters anyway. So a lot of that kind of ideas running through his head, because of how he was raised and the different tragedies and the things he magnifies into tragedies from his own life. Anyway, so he is a happy representation of an excuse of a human being, a subclass of human being, very subhuman in some ways. But he's also a comedian, and he does all these things, sometimes just pissing off crowds, just to piss off crowds, and just different weird things that keep him from pushing the wrong buttons sometimes on purpose. And he is on this path, and I realized, I don't know what it's like to be up on stage saying jokes to people. I was writing these comedy bits for him in the beginning of these chapters, and I could not answer the question of, does this hold true? If there's anybody reading this who's ever been up on stage trying to tell a joke, will this wash with some sort of authenticity, or is this just stuff that when you're up on stage telling jokes, like, you don't think about, you don't do, and all this kind of stuff? Like, I've realized that the audience participation in my imaginings and the audience participation in real life are two different things. So squared that away, got that a little bit tighter. Strangely enough, in some ways, audience participation is way easier than I thought it would be in a lot of situations. And it's way different than I thought it would be. So, and yes, it always depends upon the crowd. And usually the strongest personalities in the crowd, the most flamboyant personalities or whatever, kind of color the crowd to a certain bit. So that's something interesting. And the cliques in the crowd, the largest number of humanity tends to get a sort of a gravitational force or adhesion of consciousness or whatever it is. And I'm not trying to get too metaphysical with it, but the energy of the room, as some people would call it, I think it's a real thing. I just think it's beyond my like, you can see the afterglow of it, you can see the edges of it, but you can't see it in the thing itself, in the cause and all this kind of machinations behind it. So paying attention more to that, and I didn't realize so much about that. I knew it was a thing, and I knew you can quote unquote bomb jokes, and perfectly good ones, depending upon the situation, depending upon your timing. And here's the weird thing. I found out, like, sometimes enthusiasm, like, I really just, I'm not going to do any more open mics up on stage anytime soon, unless I, really, really feel a need. It's just, it feels like it's too much work. And if I do it without the work, I feel like I'm not doing a proper thing for the audience. So that's my excuse for not getting up on stage. But there's a whole bunch of excuses. I'm focusing on way too many other things. I still write jokes. I wrote one that I think was great last night. So, but I think it's great. It doesn't mean it's great, obviously, but it certainly made me laugh. Anyway, but yeah, my joke list is great. I got to reorganize my joke list, but there are 560 some jokes on my joke list, and two good ones. I don't know. I'm not going to overly criticize my joke list. It's kind of funny. I go through it because it starts out like 1 through 300 was a descending scale, and then I would open the document and I'd have to scroll all the way to the bottom. So I started numbering again. So at a certain number, it's like all jumbled up a little bit. And I think I did that a few times. So I have to do a lot of cutting and pasting. That's all I'm saying. To fix this problem, I got to do a lot of cutting and pasting, which is in my wheelhouse sometimes. I've done documents, I've reorganized documents for people, and shuffled chapters and books and all that kind of fun stuff. That seems like it should be easy. But no, shuffling chapters and renumbering everything and making sure stuff still jives is, the devil can be in the details. Anyway, so, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, the comedian thing. Yeah, that whole comedy thing. is beautiful in some weird ways, and I love the beauty of. Also, there's skills I just don't have in it. Like a gross joke, like you can get people laughing just because I can't believe he said that. That factor. And yes, the whole like bastion of free speech, and free speech is the thing that makes people feel uncomfortable and all that kind of stuff. Like when I first messed around with open mic comedy and stuff, like, oh, that was my bread and butter. It was also an excuse to say anything, and use that as a shield to a certain extent, and sometimes just see how people reacted to it. And sometimes a friend of mine says when he heard a whole bunch of my comedy, he's like, dude, a groan is just as good as a laugh. I don't necessarily think so, but I thanked him for being a very kind person. Back to the principle of, I think he was exercising the principle, sometimes it's better to be kind than it is to be right. I think it was very cute that he felt I might have needed those things at that time. Of course, I could be way off base and completely misinterpreting what he said and thinking way too much about it, and I probably am. So subjective reality on that one too. So anyhow, comedy, yeah, like the skills I don't have, some of the timing stuff, some of the hitting the punchline at the particular aspect of timing within the realm of the skill of timing, punchline timing. Making the punchline really punchy, hitting it punchline, really just pulling the rug out from under somebody. And that sounds horrible, but in a comedy way, it's good. And occasionally I've done that, and I've seen it hit hard, and just the explosion of laughter, that tension and release. You're playing around with that a little bit better. Reading the audience better. Also, some of my diction, some of the words I use. I like using I use it a lot in my conversations. Sometimes I like saying the, that as a primer for something coming up. But being able to do that consciously versus unconsciously. What I would like to do is all my words completely conscious, or go into a mode where I know the ums are accepted and the ums are useful here. I'll give you an example. Google and Apple are doing things like Siri and Hey Google. Cool. One of the things they do, possibly, to make these digital assistants more human is insert ums and pauses and the things that people do, like I did just there. That weird little pause and the and all that, the side effects of thinking. The verbal detritus, the dirty verbal detritus that comes from thinking and communicating. Capturing that in the digital assistant makes you seem more human. Making mistakes on purpose. A classic use of jokes. There again, In this mode, I'm completely free thinking, and in this mode, hopefully, I'm in the and the and stuff. And sometimes saying something differently in side notes. But if I want to be really, really clear on my thinking, I remember one time I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I was in and the mode and all that kind of stuff, double words. And then he asked me about this idea for this invention I wanted to make. It was a MIDI guitar type thing. And I didn't say I didn't double up my words once. And the feeling I got after talking to him about it was I was just so straightforward and on point that if he had wanted to invest, he would have been halfway to being sold on investing in my MIDI guitar idea. And that felt really good, seeing his demeanor change in a real time after I was all goofy me, just playing around. Whatever floats up here, it's coming out, not filtered too much, to something that was just boom, 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 boom. Here's how it works, here's who would like it, here's how it's better than the competition, I went with the old SWOT model, strength, weaknesses, obstacles, and threats, and I think that's SWOT. Anyway, I went to a diversified SWOT model that goes beyond just the strengths and the weaknesses and the opposition or obstacles and threats. I went into areas that are just like ramifications, and even going into creativity modes and how it's different and how it opens so many levels up to different things, and creative consciousness, and back to the whole idea between structured and adventure and how it automatically balances based upon what a human being does with the MIDI guitar. everything automatic, and it gives you a high level of control, but also a high level of simplicity and understanding. You adapt to its level, it adapts to your level. And it's this synergy of those two things coming together that create this great musical experience, as opposed to someone who's never picked up a guitar going do 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 and just being like, I don't understand how someone does this. There you go. I did something a little bit more straight on, point by point, and then I went into rated mode. So there's a good example in real time of me playing with my mind. That's why I do this. Getting better at understanding, because with certain people, it is so much more valuable for me to listen than it is for me to talk. Me talking gives me stuff like this. I crave some of this. At the same time, it's way more important to me. I already know what's in my own head. It's already there. Hopefully it'll stay there for a while. But even if I lose it, the opportunity to get back at what's at my own head is a bigger, a more wider, looser opportunity than the very finite opportunity of really being able to listen and understand someone else, being there for another human being, not just for me, but for them. Because I could take great information and mine for that information that could blow my mind. That being said, I had a conversation tonight with someone that it really blew my mind. In all of his metrics of success, and many of my metrics of success, I don't measure other people to metrics and all that kind of stuff, but when asked to do that, I do. And he seems very successful in a lot of ways, but he had the courage to be vulnerable in some ways and ask me some very open-ended questions about his life. Almost, and I could have misinterpreted, but he was like, if you were me, what would you do in this situation? What is lacking in my life and my personality? Why do I feel this way? And I think a big part of it is the physiology. He's coming off of an injury. It's kind of funny. My left shoulder is a little bit goofy. His right arm is very goofy. You know, he could lift a lot of weight, and he throws the numbers at me, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And he's like, yeah, now I can barely push 10 pounds. I'm like, whoa, that is a drastic difference. I don't like to get into the numbers, because if you hear the numbers too much, and if I hear the numbers too much and I'm unable to ignore those numbers, it possibly leads to the danger of comparison. And comparison, as far as I figure, doesn't really do me too many favors. Comparison is back to, comparison is the thief of joy. So really, really living that idea and understanding it in some ways. And, my progression seems to work best if I don't throw comparison into it. But hey, maybe that's an excuse or a justification, and I'm willing to accept that. Anyway, so crossing my fingers for him. Hopefully I said some good words. I felt like the words I said were inadequate at best, but hopefully there's some good things. Hopefully I gave him at least one tool in his toolbox. One of the tools I've been thinking about lately, and I think about it a lot, is whether it's better to be kind or nice. I think I even talked a little bit about that on one of these, where I said something about a mechanic. In that instance, it was like, okay, it's not a universal rule. It's always better to be kind than it is to be right. Not kind and nice, but kind and right. And I gave a situation where it's like, yeah, it's definitely better to be right in that situation. But in other situations, if you have the luxury to be kind, generally that's a fun path to think about. Got another friend. I should have heard from him sometime today, and I didn't. I got another friend that I heard about from today, and I was several hours slow in responding to her, and I actually feel bad about that, because I realize her time is so tight that me slacking off and just not looking at my phone for a couple hours, or falling asleep and taking a nap or whatever it was, for whatever reason, I didn't catch back up with her. And I want to make sure there's certain people that where their time is so tight, you want to make sure you get at them in time, where you have I'm living the luxury of this flexible schedule where I could actually sit here and do this. My goodness, there are times in my life I couldn't even imagine having this flexibility and wealth of time to do something that I consider fun and interesting like this. But oh, and the more I do of this, the more I realize it is so easy for someone to take something like this out of context and paint it in a very specific light and turn me into a horrible human being, or a representation of a horrible human being, which is kind of interesting because I was thinking about the other day. It's like you have an agenda, and let's say you have an agenda towards you are anti-watches. Okay, so you make a play or a movie or a novel where everybody who's wearing a watch is just the villain, all sorts of bad things, and then always mentioning when they're doing their villainy, the watch thing, and then trying to be like, well, isn't that horrible that person eats babies, and always checking the time on his Rolex watch. And it's like, I think there's a lot of that going on in the world. I think there's some people that are very skilled in doing that, and it's really curious to kind of watch those associations being developed. And then there's like, let's say the anti-watch league, doing that, and they slip out the other message, the flip of the coin, the flip side of the coin. And the hero never wears a watch, can always tell what time it is by the sun or the moon or just this internal clock that they've developed, and how accurate that clock is. I'm thinking about one character in particular, not an anti-watch and pro-watch. It has nothing to do with anti-watch or pro-watch, but I was thinking kind of one character that one of his abilities is to be able to fall asleep and wake up at a specific time without a watch. I want to wake up at 8:05 in the morning. 8:05 up. And it could be just any time, not like he has to get up for 8:05 every day for 20 years. That's built in. But like, just be like, oh, the meeting's at 9 o'clock. I got to be up at 8:05. Or it's just like the next day, oh, the meeting is at 5:30. I got to be up at 4:05. Whatever it is. Not that it takes. Maybe it does take a person longer to get ready at 4 o'clock in the morning versus 8 o'clock in the morning, but that's neither here nor there, and I won't debate the ideas behind that. We're not going to play on that playground, but hey, I'm sure it's a fun playground for somebody to play with their ideas in. So, back to unleashing all the wonderful and horrible and goofy things in my head and really playing with the idea of communication. The watch thing. The hero always has an anti-watch fetish, and all these things are subliminal and underneath the radar, but then you start noticing things. And here's where paranoia kicks in my own head. I think there is an attraction bias in the world. If a human being is deemed attractive by conventional standards, and conventional standards can be shifted by culture to a certain degree, I think things like the 0.7 ratio, I think are inherent in our genetic code to a certain degree, but I also think they can be influenced by certain things. So you can't turn off like certain like sexuality switches, but you can redirect that energy in certain ways. So like the beauty bias. If someone's beautiful, you generally, I think people are more likely to attribute quality attributes to that person's character that are either barely earned or completely unearned, and as opposed to like someone who is unattractive in a lot of conventional aspects, people are more likely to attribute negative qualities, whether they're barely earned or unearned, exaggerate some of those negative qualities to a certain extent. And I see this in certain things. I used to see that a lot when I used to hang out with certain dudes, and it would be like dudes on the prowl looking for women and all that kind of stuff. And I just saw this thing, and at first I was like, are these guys at war with women? Like, what's going on? But I wanted to be one of the guys, so I just like kind of went with it. But when I started saying stuff like, yeah, she might not be like that, it just might be a situation. We don't know what's going on in that person's life. Just because she said no and XYZ and all this kind of stuff doesn't make her a certain type of person, just means, can we really know anybody? Making that assumption that this is the direct result of her character, and this is the direct result of her. I'm not even going to go into situations, but there's so many situations where things like that applied. I just caught myself, kind of writing passes for people left and right, And yeah, some of the things that those dudes would just always laugh about it if they saw somebody, a dude that was highly unattractive in one way or another, and a beautiful woman. And yeah, they're probably right when they just said money. Must be nice to be a millionaire, that kind of thing. And yeah, certain cliches are probably cliches for a reason because there's, yeah, a high order percentage that they might be true. But did I investigate that fact? No. I went with the assumption fallacy and I assumed that it was mostly right. I still am making it. Have I done a thorough investigation of every unattractive male that is with a beautiful female? No, I haven't. And some of the assumptions were just kind of, I could tell where the assumptions were turning and where they were going. And I realized my character and their characters were just like, we were on different paths. And I don't want to criticize those guys for anything because it was an education in a lot of ways. But when I started hearing, no matter what you do, you always have to pay for it. And it being a euphemism for sex. And that was kind of a usual goal thing with those guys. And hey, it's a worthy goal, and under the right circumstances, hey, it's a great goal. It's a fun, wonderful thing. To demonize it as a goal is a terrible thing. But a goal, almost any goal, it seems, at the expense of almost anything, can turn really scary. It's like I want to win at Tiddlywinks no matter what. Winning at Tiddlywinks is probably great. But crippling, using a lead pipe to bash your opponent's hands till they're bleeding is a bad thing. But you wanted to win at Tiddlywinks, and Tiddlywinks is a good thing, So beware of goals that reshuffle your priorities. And sometimes I think of like drugs and alcohol like that. Like drugs and alcohol, if used enough, sometimes with some people becomes a priority shifter. Like you used to care about your family, but today, you don't care about your family, and that priority shift happened. And that's a scary thing, thinking about like, wow, I could have my priorities shifted. That is horrible. So back to the world of subjective reality, do I want to be a candidate for a priority shift? No. Do I know that I'd be strong enough to fight off whatever addictions or whatever? No, I don't know. I don't want to play that game. I don't want that challenge. There's certain challenges I just look at and I'm like, no, thank you. I don't have enough confidence in the mechanisms of that game to where I'd win. I think it's rigged against me, so I'm not going to do it. And like, yeah, the drugs thing can seem as a certain game because really, if you look at the drug problem, I think one of the hidden aspects of the drug problem is you get somebody who's shifted their priorities, and this scares me most of all, somebody who shifted their priorities. And let's say that they have no means of income, but drugs are expensive. So that person needs drugs. That's the number one priority. Now, what's one of the best ways that person can get drugs and they have no means of income is to get other people addicted, to sell, to get high on their own supply, which leads to trouble anyway, because the cliches are cliches for a reason sometimes. And that person becomes probably one of the biggest, I don't know if the word is progenitor, of other addicts because they have no income coming in, but they need the drugs. So the best way, one of the best strategies they can come up with or fall into is getting other people to buy the drugs, get those people addicted, and then siphoning off of that in some way. So contributing to this, it's kind of like almost the ultimate highly motivated pyramid scheme. Highly motivated. If you're sitting around, almost 100 hours a week trying to figure out how to score, you might come up with some interesting ideas. Anyway, so where was I going with all this? Is this wrapping up into something? Am I just exercising my jaw muscles to exercise my jaw muscles? Yes, I am just exercising my jaw muscles, and that's part of the point of this free thinking. I used to do it with a piece of paper and writing, but this feels a little bit better because it's also the skill building of talking. And some of this might be applicable towards conversations. Instead of explaining something in a very long-winded way, which I'm doing now, explaining it with a long-winded way gets me a little bit closer to the short, almost pithy version of what I'm saying. The simple version is, Yeah, drugs can be priority shifters. But does a person understand all that, what that phrase constitutes? Maybe, maybe not. Does it matter most of the time? No, it usually doesn't matter most of the time. Sometimes it's just social noise. So, all of these things. Wow, playing around with concepts is a lot of fun. But, gotta call it to an end. I still gotta grab some grub. I still gotta make a walk around the block. I still gotta, don't have to, but should listen to a book, take another cold shower, drink a lot more. I think I still have, what is 32 times 3? 96? 96, actually it's less than 96, but I'm going to say 96 ounces of water to still go through today. Yeah. And why do I not like the hard 75? I don't like goals where you have to start off from, well, that's part of the motivation. No. I'm going to say this right now, and I don't know if I'm going to mean it or not, but yeah, I think if I fail on the hard 75, I'm not going to start with day one. I'm going to rewrite it and call it the Yormish whatever number I want. The Yormish 777. 777 days of giving it the good shot. You know, at least checking off 3 out of 4 boxes or whatever it is. Rewrite that code so it could win, and consistency wins over intensity. But at the same time, without the idea popping into my head of that hard 75, would I be walking around the block for the past 4 or 5 days? Probably not. So, you know, I got to give credit where credit is due. That idea influenced me in a good way, but I had to run it through a few filters. That means, hey, and all ideas are like that. Like, you know, certain ideas, make them your own. Even if the person specifically says, there is no negotiation on this idea. It's an idea. I'm going to do what enhances my life. And that's just an inherent, that's why people lie. That's one of the major reasons why people lie. It's part of the human condition to do things that enhance your life and mitigate risks and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you really wanted everybody to be honest all the time, I think you would be looking at a far less pleasant world than the world that you're looking at now. Lies are pleasant and wonderful. This is not my excuse for telling people to lie in the world. I try to relate to honesty, but the most dishonest thing I do all the time is I don't say all the information. When I disagree with somebody on a vehement point, I now go to the side of, is it better to be right or better to be kind? Especially if I don't know if I'm right. I believe that this is the way that this should go, you know, stating that like that, and ultimately right out of that phrase, I'm telling somebody what they probably don't want to hear and get into that realm of contention and maybe challenge or whatever it is. Do I want to live in that realm? No. Is it easier to just say, I can see your point on that? Instead of the whole truth is, I can see your point and I believe it's utter poppycock. No, I'd rather be kind than right, and especially in situations where I'm not 100% sure I'm right. And because I play with subjective reality so much, there's a lot of situations that fit in that. Almost like a scientist. Can you say this with 100% confidence? No, I can't say anything with 100% confidence. You know, yeah, I don't know if a scientist would say that, or maybe a scientist would say, I cannot say almost anything with 100% confidence. And I think people are drawn to those always and never, and it's a safe, wonderful place to be. There is something wonderful about that safety, about that comfort of knowing there's an always and there's a never, and this is right and this is wrong. It's a good place to live. It's a good place for your psyche to live. It is a hard dose for, you know, even with things as big as Afterlife. You know, I've caught horrible looks on certain people's faces where I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. And the way I say it, I try not to minimize it, but it almost sounds like I'm minimizing it. Like, well, maybe it's green, maybe it's blue. And it almost seems like an afterthought to that. It's like, but I don't care. I'm here right now. And I do care. And I am here right now. So, you know, maybe there is an afterlife, maybe there isn't. I would love to believe there is. I have no certainty that there is. I would really like to believe that ultimately, like, I won't go into possible ideas on an afterlife, but I do have an idea on an afterlife that makes the most sense to me. But even in that way, there's illogical things in there, and then things that don't make sense and all that kind of stuff. But it makes the most sense to me, like if there is an afterlife, what I would think it would be. And I'm not going to spend an hour talking about that because honestly, I still have to flesh through those thoughts. And some of those thoughts actually touch on some of my writings and stuff. And those thoughts need to be explored a little bit more. So yeah, we won't go into that. We will shut it down for the evening or the morning or the daytime or whatever time it is. I'm going to be totally nebulous about what time it actually is. And I think I've dropped too many clues about what time it is already. Why do I do that? Say too much. Anyway, yeah, I would be a horrible person to, be like, say the absolute minimum. Oh man, I had a friend that was dealing with customer service, and he used to just talk too much. And sometimes it worked to his advantage because the customers would be like, well, this is too much information. Just, I don't want to complain anymore. But sometimes it worked towards his disadvantage. It would be like, why are you spending so long with these customers? And I remember talking to this dude. And do I talk like this in front of other people? Very rarely. I try not to have the spiel. Because I feel like if I had the spiel with most folks, it'd be like riding that steamroller and steamrolling over those other thoughts and totally missing out on possible things that could just blow my mind and possible moments where that person can truly express themselves. I love the moments where somebody is just like free to express themselves. Those are beautiful moments where you see somebody just totally just airing it out and it's all coming out and they're really excited about it and just do like, dive into that moment. It's like, I'm not a big sports fan, but if I'm friends with somebody and I see them really enjoying a sport and just watching it on TV or being at a game or whatever, it's like, yeah, cool. I feel that a little bit. I absorb that a little bit. And I like to cultivate that in many different fashions. And one of those favorite moments is talking in good conversation where somebody's just totally free flowing. And especially if it's stuff that hasn't been out and maybe is really useful for them to kind of air out. So yes, I'm giving myself the gift of that right now, and using this as a means of both that and accountability and notes to self. So will I ever watch this stuff again? Who knows? I have watched a few of these videos and it horrifies me. But at the same time, maybe that's me just being overly critical and realizing, like, and also lights a little bit of a fire. You know what burns my ass? A fire about that high. No, like what really bugs me is looking at myself as somebody who's on a fitness quest and seeing the shape of my body, and it's just like, that dude's not on a fitness quest. Or maybe, whatever it is. Everybody has to start somewhere. But I feel I've put in some work, and I should be getting better results than I am. But, hey, I'm changing my approach. Maybe I'm changing my approach too often. But I feel that this approach is probably one of the better approaches in several factors. Most important factor is I believe it's something I could stick with for a lifetime. So this approach seems pretty good. And it also gives me structure, but also adventure, variability plus discipline, and hopefully in adjustable amounts. So, all right, later it shall be.